Well, welcome to the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website, a special edition of Voices of the Valley. And that young man there on the screen with me isn't exactly a voice of the Valley. Now, he will show up at Arch Madness once in a while, but Stu Durando is with us today. He has his own particular site about St. Louis University sports, not just basketball. Right. And we're going to talk about the latest things going on with Josh Schertz. It appears like Schertz is going to stay in St. Louis after a lot of different people came running at him this spring. But first, before we get started talking about any of that, Stu, just thanks. Appreciate you spending time with me in that really snazzy bookshelf behind you.
Yeah, thanks. It's, you always have to have the books behind you.
That's right.
You look sharp. I think the Josh Schertz book is back there somewhere. I don't know if you can see it.
I don't. I can't tell.
Yeah, from back in his days at Lincoln Memorial, there was a book. Yeah, so
that is right. I never did get that book. I should do that. Stu on Slew at substack.com. We'll put that on the bottom of the screen here in just a little bit. How long for you first, though, Stu, at the Post-Dispatch?
I was at the Post-Dispatch for 28 years. Retired a year and a half ago. Didn't really retire. Just kept working. But now I work for myself, which is wonderful, as you probably kind of know. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, $1.50 now for Stu on Slew at .substack.com, covering everything at Slew. You're covering all the sports and all the activities going on there athletically. How did you end up making that choice? Why did that become the logical next step for you?
Well, I had been doing Slew. I had covered the university sports for 15 years with a gap in between when I was covering Illinois. But I'd been doing it for 10 straight years when I had an opportunity to take a buyout. And then I just thought, I had heard about this Substack thing. Didn't really know anything about it, but I launched it like 3 days after my last day at the Post-Dispatch and just kind of dove into it to see what would happen. I had no idea, and response was pretty good. So I was like, okay, this is worthwhile. It was obviously very narrow focus, kind of a niche site, St. Louis University only, probably 95% on men's basketball, but I do try and touch on all the sports. And it's been a good deal.
And you came at a great time. I mean, when you
really did.
You were joining right as Coach Schertz was showing up, and the program was getting kind of a fresh face and a fresh look, and obviously some terrific outcomes so far under Coach Schertz. You were the United States Basketball Writers Association president. What was that like to be the USBWA president? Your reign has ended, correct?
Yeah, my reign ended a year ago. As commemorated by that basketball, it says,
"Wow, that's very cool."
Yeah, that's the best thing I got out of it.
There you go.
It was, it's just a lot of organizing, selecting our annual awards, and the thing I kind of tried to focus on. Most presidents have an area where they try and focus. I tried to involve kind of the college journalists, younger journalists a little bit, and do some things for them to try and get them more involved. So we actually did some things. I don't know how much more involved they became, but hopefully, someone got something out of it who was, in a spot where I was long, long ago. And, my son went into it, and was in college a few years ago. So I know there's still a lot of people interested in going into journalism, believe it or not.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Bennett as well, because in terms of telling people that maybe don't know, people from the Missouri Valley Conference and maybe don't know who Stu Durando is. Long time at the Post, covered all the different sports, but like you mentioned, you did a lot with Slew, the USBWA president, and so people around the nation think of you highly. And then your son is an award-winning writer as well. Tell us a little bit about Bennett and his latest escapades.
Bennett's in at the Denver Post right now, covers the Denver Nuggets. So he's doing well. Thank you for asking. And he's really good, way better than I was at his age, and will continue to be so. And he started out covering Auburn down in Alabama out of college.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went to Denver, covered hockey for a year, and now he's been covering the Nuggets for 3 years. So he's loving life.
He won one of those Rising Star Awards from the USBWA when you were not the president. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, I was not involved in that vote. I was.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job and a great young man. I've met him and talked to him a handful of times. And so you've done something right, you and the wife there.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning Bennett.
So over the last weeks, really near the end of the basketball season, the drums started beating. Is Schertz going to come back? And of course, he had a long-term contract with Josh Schertz return to SLU. Who's going to make a run at him in the coaching carousel? Every time somebody farted, there was a rumor that Josh Schertz was going to go there, right? Because any good job was, every national publication said, who are the likely choices? Well, Josh Schertz. I mean, that was the answer to every question for a long time. Maybe most specifically and most intentionally, it seems like Syracuse made a pretty strong run at Josh Schertz. Am I reading that correctly? And what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, apparently there have been several schools that have been interested, and most of them remain pretty much under the radar locally and nationally in terms of the media. So there was a little mention of Kansas State that goes back probably a month.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and then and you would go on social media, and then fans are putting his picture up in a Providence shirt or whatever it might be, a Syracuse shirt, Cincinnati, I don't know. But the Syracuse one came out the weekend. Report came out the weekend that they were in the NCAA tournament or had been eliminated, that he had been pursued and turned it down. And it kind of came up and went away without much hoopla. And then he signed his extension a week ago Sunday that had been announced previously.
Yeah, so Syracuse makes the run, and the way, for the guy that's not close to the program, I'm not close, you are, to the guy that's not close to the program and listening to national people talking and whoever else that might just be rumor mongers, man, Syracuse is after him. Oh, SLU showed up and, emptied the truckload of money toward him and he signed an extension. It wasn't exactly that kind of timing, and yet SLU also simultaneously was kind of reinforcing their commitment to him. Would that be a fair way of describing that whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, he had been in talks, not negotiations on a contract, but he has said many times that he has talked to athletic director Chris May regularly since the time he arrived at SLU about what it was going to take to, to continue and sustain success. And, and that doesn't just include salary. And we're talking about, when you talk about the financial numbers anymore,
right?
The salary is almost second to, as you know, to the revenue share NIL money, is really what's important to a coach, what they're going to get to pay for their players. And so, and there's other things beyond that too. There's the assistant coaches pot of money, and there's travel and then salary also. So, I don't remember what your original question was. We were starting on this one, but
so
yeah, I mean, they laid
sweetened
out
the pot.
SLU went reportedly, without knowing the exact numbers or saying them. They expanded greatly, especially on the rev share amount, and also he's very important to Josh to keep his assistant coaches, and they expanded reportedly the assistant coach's salary money and improved some other areas along with salary. So, in all areas, it looks like they've made what is not a mid-major, if we're going to classify mid-major, commitment. They've kind of gone a little bit higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm to believe the reports, they've got $10 million to pay people next year. Which,
right, if they've got that, at good chance that'll be at the top of the Atlantic 10, I would think. But
I would think
without
too.
knowing what other numbers will be, I'm sure everyone across the board is going to be increasing for the most part, not only in the A10, but in every conference.
So 30 years ago, when you were thinking, man, I'm going to be a sports reporter, your whole goal was to talk about contracts, people getting out of their contracts, negotiating their contracts, and paying players, right?
Yes,
I mean, it's
worst.
amazing. It's amazing how different everything is happening.
Yeah,
How
it
different
really
it is.
it's the worst part of it. It's interesting, and it's changed so much just in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Schertz has said publicly a few times in his last year at Indiana State, I think he said he had $95,000 for players. And now you're probably paying a freshman more than that to come in and play. So yeah, things have changed so much, and it's and the rev share part of it now is kind of crazy to try and keep up with.
So the next incoming SLU star, they're going to have like Stu on SLU.substack.com on the side of their jersey, right? Or like, you could buck up some money and help the cause.
I could probably get a board in the arena if I paid money, but the Substack budget's a little lacking these days. Although I've done okay.
So so he doesn't take the Syracuse job, signs that contract, and this is all is happening like so fast. So he doesn't take that job. He is it's like everybody takes a breath. Okay, he really is staying. SLU has thrown some more resources into the circumstance, and then oops, Will Wade leaves North Carolina State and heads to LSU. Now all of a sudden, like I said, every website, no matter what big job comes up, Josh Schertz's name is at the forefront because everybody thinks he's a basketball savant, which he is.
Right.
So NC State does make a run at him, Stu. I've got, again, conflicting reports. I think your own tweet was something like they have reached out or said something to him, and now they're interviewing the other guy. Tell us what you know about that.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit in the interim between, say, the Syracuse situation or SLU in the A-10 to this past weekend. So in that week, Schertz very clear that he loves St. Louis. He loves SLU. The commitment is massive, and that it would take something extraordinary, for him to leave. He said that repeatedly. And, whether it be, he loves the NBA, some NBA team suddenly came after him or something like that. But he did sign the extension, which was obviously a sign that he had intent to stay here. And early in the week, he repeated, his lines about he wants to be in St. Louis. He has every intent to be in St. Louis unless someone huge steps up or something. So the North Carolina State things happened with Will Wade, who was not very upfront about his situation at NC State before bailing for LSU again. But, what it looks like is that North Carolina State had a target of a few guys. They reached out to him and asked if they could stop by for a visit on Saturday. And that's what they did. I mean, they flew in as one of, it looked like 3 interviews that day, chatted with him, and left within a couple of hours. And he said he did not receive an offer. They didn't talk financials, that being NIL, rev share, any of that, salary, coaches' salaries. So whether or not he ever received an offer, an actual offer, we don't know. But he said, okay, come by, we'll chit chat. And that's what they did. And then 24 hours later, he apparently pulled his name out of the running for the job and released a statement, and everyone went on their merry way again.
If you're Josh Schertz, how do you not take that phone call? Like, how do you not at least entertain the conversation? I mean, it's not Appalachian State. It's not even Oklahoma. It's North Carolina State. It's basketball royalty. How do you not take that conversation?
Yeah, people have said, "Oh, North Carolina State. Why would you want to go there?" NC State, Syracuse, some of these programs he's been connected with, they have a history of success. Maybe they haven't had huge success in the last 5 years, or NC State went to a Final Four.
Yeah,
but I mean, he had made it clear. He never said, "I'm 100% coming back to SLU." He said, if something huge and amazing came along, I would consider it. So he didn't close the door, which was probably the smart thing to do, so that when he did entertain an interview, that people couldn't say that, you know,
He
he
lied.
was going behind, everyone's back and he lied. So yeah, you take it, they come in for the interview and they leave, and then, you just wait and see what happens. And, fans might've been on pins and needles, but, even if they'd made an offer above and beyond what SLU had, there's a good chance he stays because he likes it here. And like he said, it would take something pretty amazing for him to.
I'll say it again. It's not even Vanderbilt. What I mean is North Carolina State. They haven't been great like they were. I mean, like you said, they went to a Final Four a couple of years ago. But North Carolina State, Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Indiana, there's only 10, 15 programs in the history of basketball that have the kind of history that North Carolina State has. And so I'm saying Kansas State isn't that job. Kansas State's a great job. It's in a big power conference, but it's not North Carolina State. And so, man, the guy's got to have the conversation. I think personally, I don't want him to ever leave. He's my, I think he's an amazing coach and I want him to be in my city, but yeah, I don't think guys need to just swat away suitors. Who knows, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the Los Angeles Times had called me while I was at the St. Louis Post,
you might have listened,
making my fortune. Yeah, I would have let them fly in and interview me.
Even now, like if ESPN called you, would you maybe give up on Stu on SLU?
I'm not anticipating that call.
I mean, but I'm just saying that's real, right? And you could say, gosh, I want to work for ESPN, but I want to stay in St. Louis. I've raised my kids here, yada, yada, and you stay. But man, entertaining conversation isn't crazy, nor is it disingenuous. I don't personally think.
No, I agree. Anyone would want to improve their situation if they have an opportunity to do it and it fits into, what their plan is in life. And, Josh is young, relatively. Yep. He's younger than me, you and me by a bit. And so, yeah, why wouldn't you talk to them? And, it just gives you a lay of the land and you know what's going on out there.
Well, I know even today I had it running at the bottom of the screen. Ben Jacobson has left Northern Iowa to go to Utah State, which was a little surprising because he's had kinds of offers before and chose to stay there. Now, after 20 full years, he heads off to Utah State and what will be the new remade Pac-12 or whatever it's going to be, Pac whatever. And so looking forward to him having success out there. Josh put out a long, big statement on Twitter yesterday. I've said from the beginning, yada, yada, yada. I mean, just things about his wanting to stay here, feeling like fans and sports writers, have been basically fair to him, but also mentioned, man, some people didn't maybe say my stuff the way I wanted it said or didn't represent it a certain way. It's just so stinking difficult, isn't it? To read the tea leaves, know what they're trying to say what they're saying, and still have your own take on a situation. And I think I find myself in that situation all the time.
Yeah.
And so talk about the difficulty of a journalist trying to hear all the different data, listening to the people themselves, and then put out information all at the same time that's coherent and maybe honest.
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky, and to be forthright, he was referring to a tweet that I made that he didn't care for the wording on, that he felt was inaccurate, and I admit that it could have been worded better. He knows it wasn't, as he says, it wasn't malicious. I wasn't trying to put out something that made it sound like he was on the verge of leaving, but probably could have worded something better. It's happened a few times in my 40 years of sports writing.
It's just every day for me. So yeah, I get it.
I felt bad about maybe tweaking it in a way that gave the wrong impression. And you just never know how wording can really can be read by some people, especially when it's like if you're texting something to someone or you put out a tweet or however it is we communicate these days in writing, the tone, can be read the wrong way, or the wording, and you have to be super careful about how you put things into words. So,
well, I remember reading the tweet, and it's kind of what you said to us earlier in this conversation. They came in, they talked, they didn't exchange numbers. Not end of story, but so there's nothing to react to right now. Maybe he's waiting on a response or whatever. That made it sound like, maybe to people reading it, like, oh, he's waiting. How many millions are they going to give him?
right.
And that wasn't what you said, nor was it, what was represented to you. And yet it could be misconstrued certainly in that way. And I know that you have a good relationship with Josh, and I know him to be a great guy. And so you guys will survive. Don't worry. If you need marriage counseling, I'm a licensed minister. Just give me a call.
That's right. No, yeah, no, he's been very, as you know, I mean, forthright. I mean, he loves to talk. He does deal with the media excessively in St. Louis, and gives us a ton of time. So yeah, I mean, no one would ever have a complaint there. And he may be feeling like, I need to hold back a little bit now. Hopefully not, though. He's too good a guy. I think everything's fine.
He's amazing in that vernacular. Like, if he ever wants to quit coaching, they should just put him on TV somewhere, and he would rule the world in the college basketball world. I wanted to go forward now out of the Josh Schertz situation, that particular situation. They lose 3 guys, I think, from the current roster.
Right.
The rest of the people can come back. Obviously, we're about to hit the portal season a week from today, I think, or a week from tomorrow. And they have some really good players potentially coming back. And a number of them have mentioned that they think they're coming back, that, so far that's what they've said. What do you think, and what has Josh been saying about what they need to get in the portal or out of high school? And did they sign anybody in the fall high school wise?
Yeah, they've got one freshman coming in, who's a kind of a true point guard type of guy, although Josh doesn't use point guard as a terminology in his offense. But yeah, so of the 14, 3 are out of eligibility. And so they'll now be done with the former Indiana State players, because Robbie Avila is on his way out, had a really good season, player of the year in the A-10. And it was really nice that he got to play in the NCAA tournament and show the country what he could do. Paulo Tieno is leaving, and Dion Brown, who were 1-year transfers. And then it was reported today that Kaluanya, who has 1 year of eligibility left, was going into the transfer portal. And he's another big. So they're wide open almost, except for a returning sophomore for inside players. So they'll be hunting centers and power forwards, as it were, heavily once the portal opens. Of course, they've moved the portal date back to the day after the championship. But I mean, if you look on some of these sites, there's probably hundreds of people listed in the portal because they're being announced that they intend to. And then I think graduate students can go into the portal now early, and players whose coaches have left can go into the portal early. So there's plenty of film review going on right now on players. But so they've got, what do they have? They had 11 coming back with the 3 gone, freshmen 12. So they've got 4 spots. I'm trying to keep the math straight in my head. 4 spots as of this moment we're talking, I think that they can fill.
And most likely you're saying bigs on the bigger side of the court is what they're going to need. 2 things about that. Firstly, absolutely, right? In the tenor of college basketball, look at the teams in the Final Four. They all have like monsters. They're just monster teams. And they
saw that in Michigan in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they saw it, and they played Michigan as well as anybody else played them. I mean, Michigan is just blowing people out. I mean, they're just dominating the opposition in the NCAA tournament. And so they need those guys. I'll say it this way, though. Josh Schertz doesn't need bigs to run his system and have effective offense. Like, people saw Robbie in the last 4 years at Indiana State and at SLU, but Josh Schertz his offenses were putting up those kinds of numbers and winning those kinds of numbers of games with every different kind of roster style and size because of the way he coaches his thing. And so, to prevail, you have to be able to match some bigs with bigs, but they're going to if history tells us anything, he's going to be successful with whatever kind of roster he builds. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, the first roster he built at SLU was flawed because he's got a late start because of the NIT run with Indiana State, and they were kind of taking what was left in the transfer portal that year. He got to start on time last year, and the 6 transfers he got were, almost near perfect for the spots he needed to fill and what they needed to do. And that was reflected in their record, their 18-game win streak, and they got to 29 wins and so on and so forth. But they run into some teams. Michigan is obviously not the everyday team you're going to see in the A10, but they run into teams that are not only bigger than them, but more physical, stronger. And that's where he wants to get, he wants bigger, stronger, more athletic guys like, you see at some of these bigger programs. And, whether you can go after the same guys that Michigan's going after, I don't know about that, but they want, similar type of players. They've got one center coming back, Jax Kerr, who's 6'11". It might be 7 foot. I can't remember what they list him at, but, great perimeter shooter like Robbie, probably a pretty good passer. And, he can, play at the rim and rebound, but he's not, he's very
thin.
slight. Yeah. He needs, 20 pounds or, I don't know what they'll aim for, but so they want some guys that can come in and, I don't know if it's kind of like a bigger version of the Hassan French who was here a few years ago. Hassan wasn't tall, but he was kind of that really big physical guy. They just need him to be a better free throw shooter.
So that's their hopes in the portal and maybe even high school players, but I would think they would be beyond high school players probably right now, although there's some guys that become pop free because a coach leaves or whatever. And going forward, there obviously money isn't going to be the problem, and obviously fan support isn't going to be the problem. I think you agree with me in this, Stu. I think SLU is ready to explode as a mid-major power, a team that can be a threat in March to win a game or two. If that's true, they're one of the top 2-3 teams in the A10 every year, maybe winning it, routinely, and can go to the tournament routinely and win a game once in a while. Is that enough for SLU and for the St. Louis fans?
Right now, it is for sure. You've got, like I said, you've got the monetary investment that they're making in the players. You've got the coach. You've got the facilities. And so you've got the basis there to at least do what they did this year again. I don't know if they're going to put together an 18-game win streak or what. Scheduling is obviously an issue. But
yeah, they have to schedule different for sure.
Yeah, and they're working on that. It's early, and I think they've only got one game for next year so far. So South Florida.
That's a good game.
Yeah, it is a good game.
Yeah,
neutral site. But the pieces are there right now to take the next step next year. Now, the goal is to take the next step in the NCAA tournament. They've won one game this year. They won one game, in the years back with Majerus and Cruz. So the next step is to get to the second weekend.
Be amazing. There's always talk about SLU wants to be in the Big East. That they've been talking about it ever since they got into the A10.
Yeah.
And so I think at some level, you just have to set that aside and say, we don't care anymore. I don't mean the SLU people. I mean, folks like us need to say, I don't care. Tell me if it's going to happen. Like, if it's going to happen, then tell me. Give me the press release. I'll care then, because they've been wanting it so long. And of course, people in the Missouri Valley Conference have been saying for all that same time period, come back to the Missouri Valley Conference. Right. Neither of those things are happening. So they're in the A10. This is their world right now. Unless you want to break a story here.
No, I know nothing. Something happens every couple of years where people get their hopes up. And this year it's, politicians lobbying the Big East for Dayton and SLU to be members. And, does that have any impact? Probably not. Goes a little deeper than that, I'm sure. But, Huh?
They could join the Mountain West or the Pac-12 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows if there's a Mountain West would be some great trips. I know that.
There you go. Hey, I want to go back to Josh for just a minute. There's been, I think, conflicting stories out there. He does have an agent. He does not have an agent.
He did have an agent.
He
and
did.
He no longer has an agent.
And
apparently this has happened in the last week or a couple of weeks, I think.
Wow.
A month at the most. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but yeah, he used to refer to, my agent is handling.
I know. Always. He always said that to me. He said that to me for 5 years, or 4 years. And then all of a sudden I heard him say, or saw it in a tweet or something, him saying, I don't have an agent. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. So people are up in arms that he doesn't have an agent. I don't know what it matters, whether here or there, I'm sure he has representation.
Sure.
He's not, finalizing
he's not doing contracts on a napkin with Mr. May.
Yeah, that was interesting update. I don't know what happened there.
Well, and I don't care if he has one or not. What I guess it became a thing. Like when he was leaving Indiana State, he was telling people, I'm not talking to people. In parentheses, my agent is.
Right.
And I think coaches are smart to do that if they're in a cycle of I'll listen to people so they can focus on basketball and let the agent do the filtering, do the vetting. If he's settled for SLU for at least a year, he doesn't need an agent right now, potentially, if he's just settled in. And I hope that's really the truth. Early signees, Big East, agent. I think I've covered everything. What if somebody knocks on his door tomorrow? I mean, like, when does this finally end? Meaning, at what point is it a point of no return, do you think, for this particular season?
I don't know. I guess we'd have to ask Josh that. But, I think he's pretty well settled in and expects to be here. That's my understanding. If he says, like you said, if the NBA calls, they're probably not going to call right now because they're getting down to the end of their season. So,
I know Billy Donovan's leaving Chicago.
Huh?
Billy Donovan's leaving Chicago.
Yeah, well, there you go. You can go to the Bulls.
That's right.
But I think he's digging in. He's talked about watching, 15 hours of tape a day on potential transfers. And, I think he's immersed in this stuff and getting ready for next season right now.
Appreciate your time today, Stu Durando. Stu on SLU.substack.com. Everything SLU, largely SLU basketball, but he covers all the other stuff as well. Go and check out his site. You can subscribe there and you'll get great Billiken content. Stu, always appreciate you, appreciate your time, your friendship, and your insight on everything today.
Thank you, Harry. I appreciate you having me on.
That's Stu Durando. I'm Harry Schroeder. You've been watching the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. Remember, since you've been there, make it a better place. We'll see you again real soon.